All right, everybody, welcome back to Off the Grid on the Record, the show where we explore the people and technologies powering clean future. Today, we're talking about something behind the scenes, but absolutely very, very critical, and that's contracts. Whether you're building solar farms, financing battery storage, or navigating regulations from ISOs and utilities, contracts are everywhere, and they're costing teams way too much time and money. So, today, our guest is Bryan Villano, CEO and co-founder of Contract Power, an AI-powered platform, but built specifically to streamline contract review in the renewable energy space. So, Bryan's team is doing something bold, not just speeding up contract work, but fundamentally changing how clean energy pros interact with legal documents, risk, and compliance. So, welcome, Bryan. How's it going today?
It's good. Thanks, Eric.
Yeah, no worries. We're excited to have you here. I think we have a lot of good insights to jump into and, really share the kind of value that you bring to the industry. So, kind of want to start off from the top, but this is my favorite question to kind of throw off first. But what was the first aha moment that kind of led you to launch Contract Power? What's the problem that you're seeing in renewables that nobody was really solving?
I like to call myself a recovering asset manager. I worked with EDF and with Clearway Energy, and the aha moment I had was I was bringing online a project in San Bernardino, 482 megawatts, three-quarters of $1 billion. There's a lot of pressure. Everyone's a little tense because there was construction in the substation that was incomplete and was delaying the progress of our ability to declare COD. So of course that put a lot of pressure on the conditions precedents of the project. So that means essentially there's obligations that you have to fulfill in order to declare commercial operation. A lot of people were scrambling to try to get the project through its RA approval process. I was calling the PUC. I'm throwing a lot of acronyms, so apologies if your users aren't following. But essentially, there's regulatory processes that you have to overcome, and we just weren't ready. And a lot of this was driven by the contract. To make matters worse, we had 9 power purchase agreements on that particular project. So that means 9 people were buying the power out of the project. And there was just a point where I experienced just complete overwhelm and was unable to really fully accomplish what was needed just due to the length and complexity. And by the way, I was managing 19 other renewable energy projects. This wasn't my only project when it probably should have been.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it was intense. It was really a hard moment. And then I said to myself, this needs to be a product. That was right when ChatGPT started coming out. I started using ChatGPT when I shouldn't have been using it, just unknowingly, but I was desperate, just trying to make anything happen. My wife always tells me, like, hey, you should do for your job the thing that you do in your spare time. I'm kind of like a naturally innovative type of person.
Mhm.
And that's why I started Contract Power. I was like, maybe you're right. Maybe this is the right one to go for. I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I have a couple of role models that I really look up to, and I feel like if you size yourself up against your best friend, you could be like, I could do that. And so I was looking at one of my like super successful friends, a millionaire, and I said to myself, all right, I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna give it a try. 2 years later, we have a great roster list for clients, and we have a fantastic set of products. We're integrating with asset performance management companies or APMs. Those companies are like they host the wind and solar and irradiance data for renewable energy projects, and they have a contract component, but this AI thing is kind of throwing them off. So we're integrating into them, helping them with their contract intelligence, and it's been a good ride so far.
That's amazing. And I know you mentioned that you used to use ChatGPT a lot, and I'm sure myself as an entrepreneur, a lot of us are using it as well. But your platform is a lot different from ChatGPT or even other generic AI tools. It's built specifically for excuse me, renewable energy. What makes contract power industry first instead of something that's just AI enhanced?
It's a good question. ChatGPT trains on your data as a number one is like the base level. Like I wouldn't put anything confidential into ChatGPT because it then becomes part of the model, which could reflect back into other users. You say, hey, what's Clearway Energy's dollar per megawatt value? You've been using ChatGPT all along, and it's, oh my God, well, there it is, you know? And so that's dangerous right in itself. But GPT is not really designed for the energy professional. They don't have updated regulations. They don't have, it's in a Q&A format. We're going beyond the chatbot. So we use AI as part of our software platform, but it really is purpose built for the energy professional with the energy professional in mind. We're mapping out every single contract with thousands of points of metadata that we use AI to extract, but then we do activities. Imagine being able to go onto just a dashboard of your renewable energy project. When you read all 7 to 10 core contracts, what you're really doing is you're creating a mental model in your head. You're mapping out, how does this thing work? And you're not going to remember all the details. I don't remember what I had for lunch last week. I can't remember. And so how are you going to remember one 400-page long contract, let alone 10 200-page
Exactly.
contracts? So that's the main problem. Imagine going to a dashboard and just getting a paradigm or just like a quick snapshot of all the key things that you want to know. We're in partnership with Radian Generation. They're a third-party asset management firm, and we're working with them there because they see so many different varieties of renewable energy projects. Um, they have great insight. I have great insight, but working with a team of people to help design the product is very useful. We should be releasing that one particular project with the dashboard that I mentioned in 2 to 3 weeks' time. But just imagine being able to go to this dashboard and you just get a snapshot. You plug in your 10 contracts, and it gives you what's known as a confidential information memorandum, or SIM. And that is basically just a full download of the project. How does the tax equity work? How does the financing work? How does the settlements work? What about the leases? Tell me everything I need to know about assignment clauses. And we have different profiles. Like we have one more for like a energy attorney, one for more an asset manager, one for a financier. We're making it so you can compare any value across not only your project set but also your fleet set. So like you take a dollar per megawatt value for a PPA in one contract, you can compare that to another contract, but then imagine doing that with any lease expiration date or any indemnification clause across not only one project but any project. And also, by the way, we do regulations too. So um, this is a really long answer to your question. So I'm just realizing
It's
now.
all good. No,
Yeah,
it's good information.
yeah. So the question was, how are we different? But so GPT essentially, the last thing is it doesn't allow you to view the material. We allow you to do human in the loop reference points. So essentially, like reference the contract, reference exactly where the information's coming from. AI makes mistakes, it omits information, it hallucinates. So you need to kind of switch your role from being a person who is creating and synthesizing and ingesting information to essentially validating information. So I call it kind of bumper bowling, where you're not going to miss, you're going to hit a pin.
Yeah.
And it's extremely accurate. It's fun to work with. It does a lot. It's not going to do, a lot of people mistake AI as, you know, being the panacea or being like the all-knowing expert in your field. It all the time, every time, it gives you very convincing answers. And you have to be discerning about that because it could persuade you in the wrong way, which is why that human in the loop is very important.
Exactly. That's huge. And I mean, I think that all ties into some of the things that I found on your site. I mean, it says that your platform can reduce contract review time by up to 80% in that way. You know, what does that look like in the real world? Can you walk us through maybe a real life example of that?
It's all about the use case. So it's not just a chatbot. It's essentially our main flagship item is called Clause Sense, And what it does is it identifies the obligations that the counterparty would have to follow throughout the life of the asset. That task alone takes, 8 hours, 10 hours, depending on how long the contract is and how familiar or unfamiliar you are with the material.
Hmm.
And the ability to have a tool that identifies, extracts, formats, and then ultimately tracks and reminds the user in an integrated fashion is important, and a lot of people really love that. And then we have what's known as our summary tool, which is a prompt library that we've created for per contract for most scenarios that you're going to come into. So we have broken out PPAs, credit support, tax equity, ECAs, MIPAs, LLCA documents. We have site control, leases, easements, title, energy management agreements, power purchase agreements, anything like that's specific to and indigenous to the renewable energy field is what we focus on for this prompt creation. Prompting is pretty hard to do, Yark, where it's like
Of
you could
course.
rephrase it in a way that's kind of slightly slanted to what you want, but also maybe has a little industry jargon, or maybe just you hadn't really thought through the question. So having someone really like think through the scenario is useful to have.
Of course. There's a lot of cases that you see of, you change one word in a prompt and it builds something completely different. I mean, in my experience, I've played around with building my own chatbots, my own, automations, and I applaud you for going through with all the processes because I know how much work it is to really get everything perfect. And well, I don't think anything's ever perfect. You think it is, and then you find a new problem to
Right.
fix. So I think it's definitely a big project, and there's always something that can be done. And I mean, based on the fact that you are working with, a lot of, sustainability companies, is there anyone in that niche that's your, ideal users? I mean, is there like any finance teams, EPCs, like legal departments, or does it kind of a huge umbrella that it just fits right under for all those?
So we find that the tools that we've created attract the user in particular. So being from asset management, I created the tool to relate to asset managers in particular for asset holders in renewable energy development companies. Now, we will be, essentially, we're working with executed contracts and executed regulations to help with the summarization of that material. Because it's a big issue. You get thousands of pages, and it's very difficult to become an expert. It takes time and money to do that. But we, in 3 months' time or so, we're releasing tools that are essentially data management tools or data room tools, where your data room will be AI powered, so that will be more on the front end of the business. So for developers, for M&A folks, and those folks who are drafting material, attorneys, for red line analysis and integration of renewable energy documentation. So essentially, we'll be moving from asset management into the development and M&A space in the next couple months.
That's phenomenal. And, one thing that kind of relates to that, and one thing that stood out to me is the focus on, compliance item extraction. Why is that such a pain point for clean energy companies, and how does your platform, I guess, help them stay ahead?
It's tough. As an asset manager, you're dealing with literal fires, but you have to create a budget. It feels like every other day you're creating new budgets. You're dealing with force majeure. You're dealing with cash shortfalls. Nothing quite goes to plan. On Tuesday I'm going to do this. On Wednesday, no. Tuesday, your project's going to get struck by lightning, and you're not going to. This task of compliance item identification and extraction is going to fall down to like number 49th on your list. So being able to just thoroughly review your documentation in the manner that you need to is extremely important, yet not urgent, because all of your tasks are over time, over the course of a year. So it's like, like, maybe I'll just do this later. Um, there's other pressing things to do. And so that's why the AI, we design it to be overly extractive, to not miss anything. And we make it very easy to sort through the compliance item identification and tracking and reminding. So, with those, that's the core issues that we're addressing is just time and attention of the individual user. Traditionally, you get a list of punch list items. You kind of look at it from your predecessor and you're like, I don't know. Did you do this thoroughly? And you just don't know. You don't have a good answer to that. So that's another reason is to compare what you already have existing to like just another set of eyes to verify, so you don't miss anything. Liability is huge. If you miss one thing, my boss at a former company literally missed one sentence in a couple hundred-page PPA, and it almost canceled this couple $100 million PPA because of this missed obligation. Not to any fault of his own. He's not an attorney. He's managing people like me. He's managing four other guys. He doesn't have time to read it thoroughly, and that's what the AI is perfectly designed for.
That's fantastic. And I kind of want to look under the hood or look under your skirt, if you will, and look into the like the more tech side of things. I mean, these things are built for specific workflows, and what's the process of building it, and what are some of the things that you're really highlighting and focusing on to make sure that it really brings in the best experiences possible?
With the Clause Sense tool, so you could ask any standard chatbot to say like, show me my obligations, and it'll maybe get 60 to 80% of them. I don't know, but it also matters like how you phrase it. It matters, how does it know what an obligation is? And that was what I thought it would be able to do when we first started Contract Powers. It will just use the chatbot, and that'll be good enough. But it turns out that the chatbots use something called semantic search, which searches the entirety of the document. So semantic search literally maps out every single word and finds relational words to each other. So if you look for the color red in a document and it's not there, that would be like a keyword search. But semantic search would find the color yellow because it's a color, and so it understands the hierarchical relationship between words. So, like going back to my obligation extraction example with just using a chatbot, we found that it was missing a lot of pretty key issues, and that's because it didn't know a lot of what I understood an obligation to be. So, what my co-founder and I, who's a former Google AI engineer, he was like, "All right, let's break this down into little chunks." And we're going to create an extremely long prompt. We have a 7-page prompt defining every instance of what a compliance item is. And then because we're analyzing chunk by chunk, it becomes very specific and it becomes very tailored to what our prompt is. And then formats that data, not just in a chatbot output, but more in a structured way. So we're structuring unstructured data in that you can export it to Excel, you can send it to our tracker. So that's kind of what's going on with our Clause Sense tool. With our summary tool and with our what we call our diligence tool, which is a multi-document chat for contracts and ISO regulations, that uses semantic search, which is fantastic. It works great with concepts. So if you're like, tell me about my indemnity clauses, it's great. It'll work across 100 contracts, literally 100 or 100 regulations. We have all the CAISO regulations up there. We have all the ERCOT, New York ISO, whatever ISO you have. We have them all up there. And you can select all of them for cross-referencing between your documents, your own contracts, and also regulations as well. So it's a great tool to cross-reference. But we use both Gemini and GPT for our core models. None of your information is used for training. So our results that we provide you we're not remembering them so that they could be reflected in someone else's response. And that's important to know because you have confidentiality to be concerned about. And that's why we choose our models to have amnesia, so none of your information is remembered. And also, the information is that we do store is hosted on a SOC 2 compliant server in Washington State. So security is important for us as well. And we also have international customers for GDPR compliance to consider as well.
That's
So
huge.
yeah, that's what's going on under the hood, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
You got it. No, that's actually the next thing I was gonna go into is you recently hit the SOC 2 Type 1 compliance and joined TechStars, huge milestone. And what do those achievements say about where you're headed?
It's just a signal that, we're a serious company. We take your security seriously. We take our development as an organization seriously. For those who are not familiar, Techstars is a startup incubator. So if you get into one of these incubators, it's very difficult to do because they're discerning. Typically comes with an upfront investment. In particular, Techstars is kind of sectioned off into different markets. So we went to the Chicago Techstars, which was supported by JP Morgan. So the investment came from JP Morgan through Techstars. And it's hard to get into those incubators. And we were really proud and really happy to get in. Uh, and so, yeah, I mean, just a signal, we're a serious company. We take your information seriously. We take this mission seriously. Industry players are starting to pick their heads up. They're recognizing Contract Power as the go-to source for document intelligence within the renewable energy industry. And yeah, we just want to be here for our customers. I know the pain, so it's tough to be part of it.
That's huge. No, and I just for the people listening to kind of clarify, because I think you and the company go into so many little different branches. So the way my thought process is going is like SaaS, like software as a service, or just services. So are you guys more of a SaaS or just a service or both? How do most customers interact with you today?
We're primarily a SaaS. We tried to go down just very briefly the service route. Um, Other companies also do this for service, but they offer a broader variety of services. So primarily is just a SaaS, but if someone wanted a service, we could do that for them as well.
Fair
They're still
enough.
early stage startups, so we're trying to be scrappy and be flexible where customers want us to focus.
Fair enough. I think that's a good spot to be, anyways. That's the beauty of being small and not overly big. Like you can really make adjustments very quickly. You can be fairly flexible. So I think that's a good spot to be.
Yeah, it's fun.
And a
It's
big
fun.
thing.
Working with like EDF and these large, like huge development companies is very process driven, and it's fun to be part of like this nimble. Let's do this. Let's switch. Let's be adjustable. Let's address the problem head on. Let's not have to talk to 87 different departments. Like I really like working in a startup. It's enjoyable.
Exactly. That's phenomenal. I mean, a lot of it is time too, right? And you've talked a lot about, reclaiming time and I love the phrasing because, what would it mean for the clean energy sector if we could just cut down contract review from 12 hours a week to 3?
It'd be huge. It'd be really huge. That means you could actually do your job thoroughly. I don't see AI replacing a vast swath of people in its current form, but what I do see it doing is just improving performance. So I kind of like look at it as being more of like you're using a screwdriver and someone gives you a power drill. You can make more benches or you can make more shelves or something,
Example.
and that's kind of what I view contract power as. Attorneys, man, those guys work day and night. I feel bad for them. They have to become an expert in contracts, like in just snap of the finger and make a judgment and decision. Oftentimes, it's not just one document; it's like a whole suite of documents that they have to become experts in.
Yeah.
And to have something that's tailored for them to just help them make decisions faster is extremely important.
Are you going directly to attorneys with this, or is it mainly like in-house attorneys, the companies that you're working with?
The Clean Energy Council is a outside counsel law firm that's using Contract Power and is also a strategic investor in Contract Power. Um, Also, many in-house councils use contract power as well. But we start generally in the asset management space and then spiral into organizations from that point. So, for example, with EDF, we started in their asset management group. Now their O&M group is using us. It just depends on who you are. Potentia Energy, their project management group is using us. So it's really where the emphasis is. Radian Gen, their intake group is, their new customer intake group. They have to become, imagine you get like 10 new projects in a week. So like, what are the key important things that you need to know out of those? And just have like a template to address. That's what our summary tool does. You can kind of create a template of the core items that are important to you. So yeah, it just depends on who you are, where the contract emphasis is. But yeah, attorneys like us.
That's amazing. And I know we talked about, AI maturing and, things really kind of changing and making it more efficient and, amplifying productivity and instead of, replacing, it's more so supplementing, I think is a good way to say it. And, as AI matures, where do you see tools, not only like yours, like contract power, but, other AI tools fitting in the clean energy value chain over the next, say, I want to say 5 years, I think is a good timeline to look at.
Yeah, I mean, AI is only going to get smarter. There's some really amazing things that are happening with agentic AI. And not only will we eventually, as contract power, be able to identify your compliance items, but we'll be able to set up your invoicing and then take your invoicing formula and go into actually create your invoice. So it's like what the future of AI looks like is I don't think there's going to be one like mega system, like one ring to rule them all, one ChatGPT. I think there'll probably be a bunch of little systems that culminate into like this mega intelligence. And like if you ever see I think his name's Satya from the CEO of Microsoft. He talks
Mhm.
about like what the future of AI looks like, and he predicts that SaaS products will be morphed into agents, and those agents will be able to you'll be able to monetize the agent. No one really knows exactly what that looks like or exactly what he's talking about, but I see where he's coming from. Like if you look at like what is a Salesforce, what is to some degree a contract power, they call them a CRUD database or create, read, understand, and I don't forget what the R is or the U and the R. But essentially, it's applying business logic to a database. That's what the CRUD focus is. And so, like with a CRM system, a customer relationship management system, it's kind of like you don't need uh, his theory is you wouldn't need software to overlay on top of the CRUD. You'd need the business logic because the AI would be doing that in the
Mhm.
background. And so it's just like what are the rules, what are the relationships and dynamics, and then eventually you're going to have to kind of like weave all these agents together into something, and that's where people talk about like the super intelligence that could be one way forward but as far as agentic AI or what your AGI general intelligence that's it, they say it's coming in 2 to 3 years, so maybe this conversation will be obsolete by then and we'll just have machines running everything. I don't know.
Amazing. Well, where can people go to learn a little bit more about contract power?
Contractpower.ai, or you can ping me on LinkedIn. It's Brian with a Y, Villano, Villa.
That's amazing, Brian. Well, this has been fantastic. I love what you're building and that it's not just about saving time, it's about helping clean energy teams focus on, what actually matters, free up some time in their day and actually be able to make more efficient work of their time. And so, everyone that's listening, if you're spending hours building contracts, trying to extract compliance items or decode ISO filings, this is your sign to stop reading and start knowing. You can learn more, like Brian said, and request a demo at contractpower.ai. So, thank you, Brian. Thanks so much for joining us and for helping clean energy scale smarter.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate you having me on.
Amazing.